There's someone in your life you can't explain. It's not that the explanation is difficult, it's that it simply doesn't exist. No conversation, no theory, no introspection session would come close to what this presence does to you inside. When they appear, something awakens. When they disappear for days, something tightens in a place you know exactly where it is, but can't pinpoint on the map of your body. And when you try to organize it with your mind simply gives up, closes the file, and says silently, "This goes beyond me." Scorpio knows this closed archive better than any other sign. Scorpio knows what it's like to live in a space where logic ceases to function. Because Scorpio doesn't inhabit the surface of things, it inhabits the depths, and the depths are exactly where reason cannot breathe. So you stay with this person inside you in a way that occupies real space, not metaphorical, real. With that question that can appear at any time but always does. Should I give up? Is what I feel clarity or attachment? Did God put this person here to open me up or to hurt me? You may have already tried to let go. You may have been angry enough to convince yourself it was the end. You spent entire days constructing the perfect argument to justify distancing yourself. You created distance. You fell silent. And yet that knot didn't disappear. That presence remained. This doesn't happen with everyone who crosses your path. Scorpio knows how to distinguish with silent precision what is a passing moment and what is a mark, what is convenient and what is necessary, what time will heal and what time only covers up without ever resolving. And when something doesn't close like other cycles did, it's because that cycle is still happening, only internally, far from any words you could use to explain it to someone on the outside. Outsiders see the situation and already have a ready answer. They speak with the confidence of someone analyzing from afar. But you're not an outsider. You feel it from the inside. And feeling from the inside is a completely different experience from analyzing from afar. It's neither better nor worse. It's something entirely different. There's something only those who feel it from the inside know, the weight of recognizing that this connection hasn't yet reached where it needs to go. It's not stubbornness. It's a perception that comes before words, the certainty that there's something unfinished here that wasn't unfinished by accident. Scorpio knows how to distinguish this weight from the weight of common attachment. They know when they're holding on out of fear, and when they're holding on because there's something real that hasn't yet fully revealed itself. Scorpio possesses a type of perception that few can sustain within themselves. It's not just intuition. It's more like an X-ray that pierces through what people show and goes straight to who they truly are. When you direct this gaze at someone God has placed in your path, you don't just stay on the surface of the story. You go to the core. You see what's broken, what's alive, what's trying to be born in that person even without them knowing it, even without them asking to be seen that way. And this gift, because it is a gift even in moments when it seems like a curse, this gift binds you in a way that no one from the outside can understand, not bound by weakness, bound because you saw too much to pretend you didn't. Giving up on someone after having seen what you saw feels like a betrayal, not to that person, a betrayal of the very act of having seen. But then comes the hardest question. Not about her, about you. You are here now carrying something that began long before this video. That person who is on your mind, they didn't arrive by accident. And the question that lingers now, I need you to keep it alive for just one more moment. It was while searching for answers to this that I found this digital book, The Divine Path That Guides Your Zodiac Sign to a Life of Purpose. It doesn't talk about connections in the way you're used to seeing them. It talks about what God specifically designed for those born under Scorpio, the spiritual mission behind meaningless encounters, connections that hurt and build at the same time, and people who arrive and never truly leave, even when their physical presence is no longer there. You are in a very specific state right now, An open mind, a heart still processing. This is one of the truest states that exists. It's not fragility, it's receptivity. And it's precisely in this state that certain truths can enter. Don't wait for this feeling to pass before seeking answers. The best understandings come while the experience is still fresh. The link is in the first pinned comment. But be aware, this content may be taken down. Click now and download your copy. And before we continue, write in the comments the name that came to mind when I mentioned this person. It can be just the initial, just so you recognize, even if only to yourself, that this presence is real. There's a question people ask wrong when a connection hurts. The wrong version is, why is this happening to me? This version leads to a place of waiting, resentment, of being a victim of one's own fate. But there's a different version, a version that Scorpio, when in their most lucid state, can formulate without anyone teaching them. The version that transforms the whole experience. Why did God put this person here now, at this specific point in my story? These two questions seem similar. They are not. The first asks for an explanation, the second asks for a revelation, and the difference between seeking an explanation and seeking a revelation is precisely the difference between wanting pain to make sense and wanting it to change you. Scorpio wasn't born for shallow explanations. It was born for profound revelations. And every person God places in a Scorpio's life, especially those who cause the most pain, those who defy any rigid framework, carries an embedded revelation. Not always about them. Sometimes the revelation is almost exclusively about you. Imagine a rock being shaped. The instrument that molds it is not gentle. It's friction, it's pressure, it's forced contact with something that resists. And the rock that emerges from this process is not the same as the one that went in. It's more real, more itself, more than it was before the friction began. God uses people like that, people who are friction, who resist, who don't fit in the way logic would dictate, who arrive at inconvenient times, who stay when the situation calls for distance, but who mold something in you that only that specific type of pressure could mold. This doesn't mean that any painful relationship should be maintained at all costs. That's not it. Scorpio knows, on a level that predates words, the difference between friction that transforms and weight that only destroys. That distinction resides within you. And if you're here now, still listening, it's because something within you hasn't yet decided. You're still discerning. You're still looking into the depths of this story to see what's really there. There's a silent law governing the most intense connections in a Scorpio's life. The people who affect you most are mirrors of the deepest layers of yourself. Not mirrors that reflect what you already know, mirrors that reveal what you haven't yet recognized in yourself. When someone makes you feel anger that seems disproportionate to the situation, there's something about you in that anger that hasn't yet been seen. When someone awakens a tenderness in you that you didn't know still existed, there's something about you in that tenderness that wants to be known. The intense people who enter a Scorpio's life don't enter randomly. They enter through the cracks, wherever there's an opening, wherever there's something that hasn't yet been fully understood. What most people call obsession in Scorpio is actually a process of self-discovery. You're not stuck with this person because you've lost control of yourself. You're stuck in this connection because they're showing you something that will only be revealed when you stop trying to run away from them prematurely. And the most disturbing thing of all is that you know it. In a part of you that doesn't need arguing, you know. Scorpio has always known. It's just that you don't always want to admit that you know, because admitting it means taking responsibility for truly staying, for truly going deep, for truly asking what this connection is trying to show you. The question isn't how to get rid of this intensity. The question is, what is this intensity trying to show you about who you are? What this intensity reveals about you isn't written anywhere easily accessible, but there is a path. This digital book, The divine path that guides your zodiac sign to a life of purpose was written precisely for those who have arrived at this question. Not for those who want ready-made answers, for those who are willing to go deep to find them. Scorpio knows what it means to go deep, and knows what awaits on the other side of a real descent. This book won't tell you what to do. It will show you what you already carry without knowing. The divine purpose embedded in your nature, especially in the connections that move you most. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey towards the clarity and genius you deserve. There's an idea that, when it truly sinks in, changes everything. It's not easy to accept. It's not comforting at first. But once you see it, there's no way you can't see it. The idea is this: God doesn't just send angels into your life. Sometimes God sends tools, and tools, depending on the work they need to do, can cut. In every Scorpio's life, there are people who have arrived as tools of revelation, not because God is cruel or careless with you, but because God knows exactly what needs to be refined within you, and what the specific instrument capable of doing that work is, without anything else replacing it. You can call it karma, you can call it destiny, you can call it the divine plan. The name changes. The phenomenon is the same. And the phenomenon is this: certain encounters were not designed to be comfortable. They were designed to be transformative. This person you can't let go of might be a tool for opening up. They might be here not to stay the way you want them to, but to do something in you that can't be done any other way. And the resistance you feel when you think about giving up on them, that visceral resistance that doesn't obey your most rational arguments, might be exactly the sign that the work isn't finished yet. This requires a kind of courage that few people develop. Not the courage to hold on out of stubbornness, the courage to ask with true honesty, without fear of the answer, what still needs to be done within me because of this connection? Scorpio has this courage. It's one of the sign's most fundamental traits. You don't run from the depths, you go there. You face what others avoid. You stay when others leave. You endure the pressure of the cocoon when the cocoon seems to suffocate you. And that's exactly why certain revelations can only happen in a Scorpio's life, because only Scorpio stays long enough at the bottom to see what's there. Only Scorpio doesn't confuse the darkness of transformation with the end of everything. There's a map for this process, not a map that simplifies, a map that delves deeper. The digital book, The Divine Path That Guides Your Zodiac Sign to a Life of Purpose, specifically traces, for Scorpio, the relationship between the most intense connections in your life and the purpose that God wove within you even before you were born. It's not vague mysticism. It's an understanding of your nature that goes where most conversations about astrology don't dare to go. If you feel that this connection carries a purpose that you haven't yet been able to fully name, this book was written for this exact moment in your life. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey towards the clarity and genius you deserve. There's something Scorpio does that other signs simply can't sustain: radical loyalty to the invisible. Not loyalty to what appears easily, to what works effortlessly, to what's easy to defend in a conversation. Loyalty to what exists beneath all that, to what you saw in that person, to what you felt, to what you know is real, even when nothing on the surface confirms it anymore. This ability is extraordinary. It's rare, and it is often the greatest gift someone can receive in life, a person who doesn't give up on you before you give up on yourself. When Scorpio doesn't abandon someone, it's not because they're incapable of leaving. It's because of a profound clarity, sometimes silent even to themselves, that something is still alive there. Something that deserves to be seen as far as it's possible to see. And that gaze, that gaze that remains when everyone else has gone, has a spiritual weight that goes beyond what any word can accurately describe. Not because you are responsible for the other person's transformation, you are not. Each person goes through their own process in their own time, in their own way, with what they have available. But there is a kind of presence that plants seeds without anyone noticing the planting, a word at the right moment, a gesture of continuity when she expected abandonment, a silent consistency that says, without needing a voice, "I see what exists in you beyond what you are showing now." Scorpio was made to see what lies beyond, and sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is simply not giving up on them before they themselves can see what you've already seen in them. We've reached the quietest and most powerful point in this whole story, that point that most people stop before reaching because they think they've already understood enough, that they already have the answer to the whole question. The decision not to give up on this person is not ultimately about them. It's about who you choose to be. Scorpio is always, in every major life choice, faced with a question of identity. Not an identity constructed to be approved by others, an identity that emerges from the depths, that is tested in the dark, that only reveals its true outline when the pressure is high enough to strip away everything superficial. When you decide not to give up on someone God has placed in your life, you're not just making a choice about that relationship. You're choosing to be the kind of person who goes all in, even when the surface offers no rational justification. You're choosing to trust a perception that goes beyond what can be explained in a 5-minute conversation. You're choosing to honor what God has planned, even without having the complete map in your hands, even without knowing how this story will end. And that choice transforms you, regardless of what happens to the other person, regardless of how the story ends, regardless of whether or not they recognize what you saw in them. The transformation is yours. It happens within you. It's irreversible, and you carry it with you everywhere you go after that. The choice you just recognized, to go deep even without a complete map, has a foundation, a bedrock that can be accessed. The digital book, The Divine Path That Guides Your Zodiac Sign to a Life of Purpose, reveals the structure of Scorpio's specific divine purpose, why you were made for connections that go beyond logic, what God sees in you that is still being built, and how to transform the intensity you carry into clarity about who you are and where you are going. It's not generic self-help content. It's an interpretation of your nature that goes where you've gone. Deep. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey towards the clarity and genius you deserve. There's a kind of rebirth that only happens after a long night. Not a night of hours, a night of months, sometimes years. The night when everything that seemed right became a question, when what seemed resolved became open again, when the person you thought you knew had to reintroduce themselves to themselves without the script they had been using until then. Scorpio knows this night intimately, better than any other, because Scorpio isn't just the sign of transformation, it's the sign that goes through transformation without leaving it prematurely. It's the sign that stays inside the cocoon, even when it seems like the cocoon will suffocate. Because there's a wisdom in Scorpio that doesn't come from books. It comes from deep within. A wisdom that knows that leaving prematurely means losing exactly what was about to be born. That person in your life, that knot that won't close, that presence you can't explain or completely let go of. They're not here to define you. They're here to reveal you. And what will be born after that revelation is complete doesn't yet have a name. Because what is born in Scorpio after a real journey is never what it was before. It's deeper. It's truer. It's freer. Not the freedom to no longer feel, but the freedom to feel everything and still know clearly who you are. God didn't put this person in your life by accident. In the life of someone being guided, there are no accidents. There is construction. There is a purpose. There is an invisible architecture that you, of all the signs, are the most equipped to perceive when you stop trying to control what is still being done. This is Scorpio, the sign that goes to the bottom, not because it has lost its way, but because the bottom is exactly where the truest and most necessary answers are waiting for those who have had the courage to descend there.